Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome. I hate to interrupt the great networking that is at the tables, that is core of what the Chamber does. We're here to be your connector, and I love seeing the conversations happening, and I hope you stay afterward and continue conversations with the people you're meeting. My name is Jane Clark, and it's my privilege to be the president of the West Coast Chamber, and we're so happy to welcome you to the December issue of our Wake Up West Coast Breakfast. First thing today, we're going to chat with our sponsor today. I'd like to ask Elizabeth Berlinski of Leading by Design to come up. One of the things we're doing this year is our Have It Your Way theme. And so Have It Your Way means a couple of different things. One is a hearty welcome to our digital viewers today. Have it your way. If you chose to watch from home today, we're live streaming this presentation in partnership with the City of Holland. The other way we've done Have It Your Way is we've talked to our sponsors and said, let us know how you'd like to share information about your company. And so today's sponsor is Leading by Design. I'm going to welcome Elizabeth Berlinski, and we're going to have just a short conversation to help you get to understand what Leading Design is all about. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here. So you're a partner now with Leading Design.
Yep.
Tell our audience what Leading Design is all about.
Our mission at Leading by Design is to help make West Michigan the hotbed of the best leaders in the country. So we like to say what Nashville is to country music, what Silicon Valley is to technology. We want to see West Michigan be to leadership, and we're poised for that because we've got so many great leaders and great organizations, and it's all about taking great leaders and just continuing to grow and making them better, and they're impacting those that they lead. So that's our mission.
Well, that is wonderful. Now, what makes you guys different than other leadership development programs, consultants that are out here?
I would say it's the effectiveness. Our flagship program is called Lead 24/7, and it's a year-long program really structured around how adults learn. So it's a journey. It's not go to a seminar, be done with it, and now you know how to do it because you heard it. It is adaptive learning. You're focused on a topic, you're focused on self-awareness and your unique design, working with a coach, working with a small triad, and through that journey, you're adapting and building habits. And I think that's the biggest difference. The other thing I would mention is that we don't focus on everything. We focus on what we think are the vital traits and characteristics that leaders need to have to be successful and to really positively impact their teams. So it's kind of the old 80-20 rule.
Yeah, that's great. And then as we wrap up, what's on the horizon for 2022? What can we expect from Leading Design next year?
Yeah, well, we have just kicked off in the fall 7 cohorts, which was really exciting because we're back to kind of what our target is in capacity. But what is exciting about it is there's some different leaders, different, it's been private sector and others and very diverse, but we have our first cohort of all pastors. We've got a cohort that is a third or more of them educators, K-12, so a push there that's going to continue to grow. The Lakeshore Nonprofit Alliance has a cohort going through. So I think the diversity of leaders from different groups is what is really starting to grow and is very exciting. And we're kicking off our alumni group right now, so it continues on. We had 100 people just in the last month that Roger was training yesterday, ready to get started in small groups that continue. So, and then spring we kick off hopefully another 6 or 7 cohorts.
That's wonderful. We're going to make I'll call it the West Coast, the Silicon Valley of leadership.
Yes.
So thank you to Leading Design for sponsoring. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, today's theme is going to be all about leadership, and I think you're in for a real treat as I introduce our keynote speaker. We've invited Pam Green to join us. Pam is from Washington, D.C., and Jody Ozarski from our chamber staff and I got to know Pam because she is one of the instructors at our Chamber Institute program, the advanced training that chamber professionals go to. And Pam is always one of the top-rated speakers at our Institute program, and we just know that you're going to enjoy learning from her as well. She is one of the top leadership coaches in the Washington, D.C. area, and she's really here to help all of us learn how to make transformational and sustainable change as we look to addressing the Great Resignation and how to avoid that. So welcome Pam Green to Holland, Michigan.
Thank you.
And as Pam is coming to the stage, I know you all know the Chamber takes your health and safety so very carefully. We want to protect you. And so as you finish eating, I am going to ask everybody to put their masks back on for the duration of the program. So as you wrap up, when you're not actively eating and drinking, let's all mask back up. And welcome, Pam.
All right, thank you, Jane. And thank you, Jody and Colleen and the whole group. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm always excited to get out and to connect and to hang out with some really strong and powerful and influential business leaders. Now, are we getting a ring? Everybody can hear me okay in the back? Okay, we're all good. All right, so we got a little bit of time. Here's what I'm gonna do. I kind of feel like this is speed dating because we got a little bit of time and hopefully you'll have some questions at the end. But here's what I'd like for you to do is just think of one thing that you want to get out of today, right? Think of or pick up what's one nugget that you'd like to get out of today, and then just kind of hold that thought. Now, here's the one thing that I know about leaders, business leaders, is y'all don't want anyone to know that you don't know something, so you won't write it down. That's the reason why I'm asking you to remember one thing, so when you get to the car, you can write it down. Is that fair? All right, okay. So I want to talk about what we're now not supposed to talk about is the Great Resignation. You know how we get on this bandwagon of a word, and then people say the word, and then someone suddenly says, I'm tired of talking about the word. Well, now we're no longer saying Great Resignation. I don't know what we're saying. I've just been reading. We're now tired of talking about it. But the truth is, people are like opting out of work. And so last night we were sitting around talking, and it was so interesting. It was like, well, where's Bill? I think, so where exactly are they going? And it's anyone's guess, right? But I'm gonna hopefully give you some insight so that you can go find them and drag their behinds back to work, right? Because I'm ready for them to get back to work as well. A couple of things. I always like to start out with something to kind of capture the essence of what I think it is we're gonna talk about. But I think it's important to think about some of the, because really when you think about the Great Resignation, what they're resigning from are some of the unconscious patterns that we've enacted in organizations, like for many years. Like there's a way of being in an organization, and we've gotten accustomed to it. So we take it from one organization to the next organization and to the next, and it really is sort of like unconscious thinking. We're just doing it because we've been doing it, as opposed to what the pandemic has offered us is an opportunity to shake things up, right? It's an opportunity for us to do some things a little bit, or maybe a lot, differently, to go out and grab what a lot of the writers have been saying for the last 25 plus years, that blue ocean strategy. We're now in our blue ocean opportunity, and the question for you is, what are you going to do, or what are you doing to shake it up, right? What is this pandemic presenting for you? What opportunities are we maybe ignoring because we're just kind of well, it's gonna come back, it's gonna bounce back. I don't know. You know, I have no crystal ball. I don't know that things will be exactly the same, but I know that what's happening is that people want things to be different, and it requires a different way of thinking. So here's the deal. Most of these industries have all been hit. And what I found is a lot of my clients are in that manufacturing, healthcare, sort of nonprofit sort of bucket. And they've been hit really, really hard in different pockets of the country. And what they want is that they're tired of the same old routine. They're tired of unconscious behavior, like challenging the status quo. And so what the pandemic has offered is an opportunity for them to challenge you and I with rethinking the work. Right? Really rethinking the work. And I got to tell you, I'm going to toot my own horn. I wrote about this like in 2013. I wrote a book that nobody read, so I'm going to give it to you. So I'm going to give it to one lucky person today, right? But I wrote about it, and I said, I cannot friggin' believe this. Like, I should be on CNN and Fox and all those other news programs talking about what I'm going to tell you today, because I think it's so incredibly relevant. It is really, really relevant, because people, I'm going to give you the secrets. I'm going to give it to you on what people are actually looking for. And then you decide if this is something that you can live with. So what are they seeking? Here it is. Here's the list. All of the things that we already know. These are things that honestly they took advantage of over the last 2 years, last year and a half, right? flexible work, shorter work days. They took them whether you wanted them to or not, whether you had them go online and chime in, like, I need to make sure that you log in. Shoot, I could have my 8-year-old do that, right? So they figured out they don't need to see my face on screen, so I can just put up a picture and be reading a book or something, watching television or talking to my cat. I don't know. Their freedom. Now let's look to the bottom 3. I think these are really important. Micromanaging bosses, because some of y'all needed to see that people were working when they actually probably were not. So we know how to be busy in person, right? From commutes and dealing with unresolved issues, right? So if as a leader, I'm a micromanager, meaning, and here's the key to being strategic, because people want to know that, it's knowing how to operate at the 3,000-foot level and bouncing up to the 30,000-foot level. And really just that iterative process of back and forth. It's not staying at the 30,000-foot level and saying, oh, the landscape, come up here and look. It's saying, I'm going to look and see what's on the horizon, come back and bring you all with me. Then I'm going to go back and teach some and share some, and then I'm going to go back and talk about. And it's really this process of back and forth. But some leaders, because we're attached to our individual performance, right? We're used to being rewarded for our individual performance. When we move up to the more senior ranks, we are attached to that performance. And so we teach other people to continue to be attached by hovering over them and allowing them to perform in ways that allow us to really achieve our goals in unique and creative ways. Commutes, tired of those. I don't know how much of y'all have to deal with a commute, but it seems like when the pandemic began to lift, all of a sudden we noticed there's commute and there's traffic and people are tired of that. We also see it because, do y'all know statistically there's been an uptick in, what do you call those crimes when people like road rage? Y'all notice that? There's been an uptick in road rage significantly since the pandemic. So we're tired of seeing y'all all the time, right? We're really tired. And then dealing with unresolved issues when we get back in person. So these are things that if you really want them all to come back, and I don't know, now let's just by a show of hands, no judgment, how many of you really would prefer to have us come back and be together again? I'm trying to say that in my nicest way, so I don't want you to feel judged. Yeah, but why? Why do you want to come back? There's some really, I'm not going to judge, I promise. Team development. Team development, yes. What else? Collaboration. Yep. It seems like it's better when we're all together. Yeah, why? Because beyond the screen, I have no idea what's happening beyond the screen. If you knew what was happening beyond my screen, you would say, girl, you need to be in an office every day. Because I got my mom, my husband, my soon-to-be 20-year-old son. We used to have a dog, and the turtle, and everything else beyond the screen, and all my friend husbands. And it's like, seriously? Like, can't y'all go somewhere? So I need for y'all to be back at work so I can get some work done. What else? Culture. What? Social interaction. We forgot how to interact with one another. That's why we're killing each other. Really. So think about this. This is why this is so important. And I understand, we want to follow what people are doing. When we went into this pandemic space, right? We went to our own space. What happened when we went home? We got to be around all of our people, didn't we? And we got to be in a room or in an environment where we all kind of thought alike, didn't we? Right? And no one challenged that. No one challenged our thinking. No one challenged our way of being. No one really pushed us to be different or to think or to see from different perspectives. I didn't have to beyond that few minutes we were on the screen. So I doubled down in who as part of my worldview, right? Whatever that is, I am steeped in it. And now you want me to come out and be with people who challenge that. I really don't want that. I just want to kind of be in my own world. That's really what is happening. And there's a little quote behind my wall. It's like, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. So if we need to be changed, and we do, in order to see our goals realized, then we need to be challenged. So what's happening is, I want to bring my worldview into the workforce, and I don't want you to challenge me. I just want to keep doing what I've been doing. And what is that going to get us? Nowhere. Actually, where it's going to get us is someone else is going to eat our lunch. someone else is going to figure out how to overcome some of the challenges that we don't really want to face. So is there a hybrid? Absolutely. There are some people who can be extremely productive and work at home. And there are others who are not. And the biggest rub has been with leaders who didn't figure out how to measure productivity. The organizations that do this well know how to measure productivity. The ones who don't and haven't figured that out. How do you know if a person is actually doing what you need them to do? How do you know? And there are different answers for that, right? It can't be type in on the computer and let me know that you're here. I'm just checking in. That doesn't mean I'm working, right? How do you know the person is doing what you need them to do? When you satisfy that answer, the 6 little tips I'm going to give you are going to be easy. Because you're not going to care if they're sitting in a friggin' movie theater in the middle of the day, or going to the grocery store, or got to drop their kid off at the doctor, or take a parent to go where they need to go, because you know they're going to get the work done. It doesn't matter what time of the day, night, or the weekend, they're going to get the work done. There are some jobs, however, and this is where that fairness thing, because fair is not always equal, write that down, right? Got to tell that, put that on a poster and tell everybody. Fair is not equal. There are some jobs require your in-person, your physical body to do this work. I'm not going to set up little manufacturing plants in your garage so that you can work from home, right? So there are some jobs that need your physical presence, and there are other jobs that we're going to honor your ability to do it at home. Now, you can create differentials. We talked about this last night. You can pay people more to come into work, right? You can pay people, I mean, you could do a lot of things to prompt their butts to get back to work, but it causes us to think differently about the work, all right? So a couple of things. Here are some signs you all know. How many people, they're complaining, they're more demanding. And some of us got ourselves into this trouble because we started giving all the information generationally. I don't even have time to really talk about that. I got a whole thing on that. But generationally, I have 5 generations at work. The younger generations, the bottom 3, whatever y'all we call them now, they want information, and you all have been giving it to them. So now you got 3 generations of really entitled people, and the upper 2 generations, the more senior generations, the boomers and the greatest generations are like, what is all of this? Asking me for all this. You don't need to know all of that, but we don't know how to tell them, so we tell them you don't need to know all that. Then they get all pissy, and then, right? And then you try to get back some of that, and you're like, you've given them all this information. Pandora's out the box. So how do you stop giving them all the information when now they're used to getting all the information? It's all y'all's problems, y'all's fault. Y'all did this. So now we have to rethink communication. How much information is needed to get the job done? So they're really pissed about the information piece. So they're complaining because now they want to know not only how we're going to get there, but how we're going to help them, and what are you going to do? And you should be doing what I'm doing and all of that stuff. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to keep moving, I promise. But listen, once you achieve a certain level in an organization, you don't have to prove to anyone that you can do their job. You kind of got the job that proves you could do their job. Your job is to administer the work that's getting done. So this, I'm going to show my people that I can get down there and do. I ain't doing that no more. I'm going to tell you what my assistant told me once. I kid you, I'm not lying. My assistant said to me, she said, Pam, she closed the door. She said, Pam, repeat after me. And I said, what is she saying? My assistant. She said, I have. I said, I have. She said, people for that. My assistant had to tell me, I got people. She's like, why are you doing all this? You got 25 people. Give it to one of them to do. And I was like, girl, you getting a raise, right? Right? We have people, but we want to why you keep proving yourself? So stop all of that. All right, so I'm going to keep going. Anyway, now, if employees are reimagining their work, this is what they've done, this is what the Great Resignation has done, it's like, ooh, I can do this in all kinds of ways, then we have to reimagine the work. We have to rethink who gets to do what where. And it's a lot more, it's really simpler than what we make it, but in the wonderful, happy state of Michigan, right, where everybody's family, and we know everyone here in Holland in this area, right? Found that out last night, right? We know everyone. The problem is I don't want to fire Bill because he's connected to Joe. And then Joe's connected to this person. And then I'm going to look bad, right? I don't want to look bad. I don't want to feel bad. But I can still deal with Bill and Joe and this person. We can still all have lunch, but this is business, right? This is just business. It's not personal. We make it personal by bringing personal into it. This is business. You have to make business decisions regardless of the personal, right? And then I know the old movie, well, it's not personal to you, it's personal to me. I know, right? I get that. But it still ultimately is business, and there is somebody else out there for you. So some people have to be released into the workforce simply because you can't hold on to everyone, right? To rethink the work. So here are the 6 needs. I'm just going to give them to you. The first one is they want control over who they work with. In my book, I talk about there's a company called Valvoline Corporation. And you probably have heard of organizations that have just done away with supervisors and all that stuff. Now I'm going to tell you this. I'm not a big fan of that, but I just put it in there because it's a thing. And if you want an idea on what people are wanting, they want control over who they get to work with. Hence, I don't want to work with all of y'all, I'm going to work from home. I want to work with my dog and my kids, maybe my mom and dad, but I don't want to work with all of y'all. Right? So I want to be with people I want to work with. They want control over what they're working on. And there's some real benefits of this. If I get control, what does that mean? I have to measure my benefit. Measuring my benefit. When I worked as Chief Membership Officer for the Society for Human Resource Management, I had 10 people in the field. I had to measure whether or not they were actually doing what I needed them to do. But besides the fact they were happy, yes. But what I also found was not everyone can live and work in the field. Some people needed to be physically in the office. Not so I keep an eye on them, because that's where they got their energy from. That's what that would boost really their productivity. So I had to be able to measure by numbers and different kinds of metrics whether they were doing what they needed to do. Oh, and by the way, I had to tell them, this is what you're being measured by, so that they could focus on those things. I didn't care whether they went to the movies in the middle of the day, went grocery shopping. I just wanted to make sure the numbers were up. Almost by any means necessary, so I had to deliver on customer service. But it changed my thinking about how the work gets done. Different sort of measures of productivity with the team in the office. The other thing in the office, some people are more productive when they can connect and they can collaborate and they can see people. So I might be at your cubicle, I might connect, I might be laughing and joking, but what we find is when we have that happy button turned on and we're networking, we're connecting, and we're with our people and we're really in our jam, we can actually be way more productive. So different people have different ways of stimulating productivity. Some can't do it in an office. It's just too noisy, it's too crowded. Pam and her crew over there laughing and talking and drinking coffee and the smell of popcorn. Did anybody complain about popcorn in y'all's offices? I hear that, I didn't hear that before I became a consultant. Now I hear it all the time. Oh, I smell of popcorn at 4 o'clock, blah, 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 right? So that would actually throw people off, whereas others, it lit them up. So what really turns people on? How are you measuring productivity? Let me go back. Oh, okay, back. Well, hitting the wrong button, that would help. All right. Oh, when the work gets done. So again, this kind of goes to whether I do it in the morning or late at night, the work's going to get done in that 40-hour work week. Where the work gets done, obviously working from home, word of mouth advocate when they get to do this. If they get it right, you got to hold them accountable for that. And then why the work is important. Why it's important for them to do what it is. Now you would think, oh, come on, it's in the job description, they should know. Right now, we have to woo them all over again. We have to find a way to get them connected because their whys have changed. Their why they're doing the work has changed. There are some people, and I was sharing last night, a couple of my clients are in the healthcare industry and in the child care industry, right? So these two caring extremes. And a couple of the employees said, Pam, I didn't get into this to die, right? I didn't get into this to expose my family in these ways. And I don't know, when my son, who's now almost 20, when he was in daycare, every friggin' disease that came out, I swear he would get. Had anybody have a child that had hand, foot, mouth disease? That's a thing. That wasn't a thing when I was growing up. So he would get everything. So I totally understand how they're feeling. You know, I have family members who are in the healthcare industry, right? I totally get that, can be empathetic. So they have to rethink what they're going to do for their career. So it's not that easy for them. It really is not that easy. This is what they want to do, but COVID shifted all of that for them. And so they're rethinking what they're going to do, and their why has changed. Their whys have changed. Not a whole lot you can do about that unless you rethink the work to help reconnect with their why, right? What do you do with a child care, a teacher, or a daycare worker, or a nurse, or a doctor who've decided, I don't want that hand-to-hand work anymore? What do you do with that? For some of them, they have to be released back into the workforce so they can figure that out. And where are they getting the money? As I was sharing last night, accidentally on purpose, looked at my mom's bank account, who lives with me, and I said, where the hell did all this money go? Shoot, are we live streaming? Where did all this money? Mom, seriously? Like, seriously? Like, so they're taking care of each other. Everyone's taking care of everyone else so that we can make it, so that I can continue to take care of my mom. Other people are taking care of their loved ones at home, right? And they're pooling their resources. That's how they're able to do it. They're pooling their resources. They've cut back on things they don't have to do, and places they don't have to go. Saved on gas, dry cleaning, makeup, all of the extra stuff that we used to do to have to go to work. Don't have to do it. Lunches. How much money did we save on lunches, right? The food, the extra stuff, like really. So they saved, and now they realize they can repurpose those resources. So, a couple of things. Oh, and then how the work gets done, which is all connected. Couple of things. What's getting in the way? Here is your culture framework. Here's what I want you to do. Want you to think about all of these elements. When you look at, well, what do I need to do and how do I need to change? Some of you will have to change in certain ways to help attract other newer or different people, bringing them in, like really rethinking the workforce. So culture ultimately is just how you're doing things. And if we have like 70 different companies in here, then there's 70 different ways of achieving the culture. Problem number one is if you don't do a good job of defining this and redefining this, if I borrow from Bill's person, they come over and they work in my company, if I don't do a good job of defining my culture and then helping people get oriented to it, I'm taking Bill's culture and putting it into mine. And without that orientation and onboarding process, which by the way needs to be more than 90 days, I am actually adopting another organization's culture and bringing it into mine because I haven't redirected what it is that I want people to do. I haven't helped them to offload some things and then replace it with learning and practicing my culture. Elizabeth said it perfectly. This is a process, right, of not just training people, okay, here's what we do, but it's some peer work. It's mentoring, it's coaching, it's all of those things. It's not just plopping them in a job. Yeah, they could do the skills, but can they live within the culture of your organization? Specifically, like, does the atmosphere have to change? How is my atmosphere compared to others' atmosphere? What's different? What's unique? What's better about my organization? How am I going to create an atmosphere where people can bring their best selves, whether they're behind the screen or in front of it? Like, what about that? Look at team engagement. I'm going to give you some stuff on that here in a second. What about the rewards, compensation, benefits? All of these things make up your culture. So it can't just be, I'm going to go to, write this down, flexjobs.com, because if you want to know where all the jobs are, there's like 30,000 flexible jobs out there, and they're all on FlexJobs and all of their partners.com. So if you want to see what, like, maybe some of your competitors are doing, and what jobs they have posted, they figured it out. They're in flexjobs.com. That's where everyone goes. Then FlexJobs not paying me to do this. But it's like, seriously, this is where they're going to find jobs, and that's where we go to post jobs. And we want to find that job market, that's where they are. But these are the elements of culture that we need to pay attention to. And in the pandemic, question for you, have your values changed? How have they changed? In what way? In what way have your values changed? Have a real honest conversation about that. And you know where I would start? Employees. I wouldn't start with the senior leadership. No way. Because we're holding true to our values. We're founded on this. I work with a lot of family-owned businesses. They're just so cute. And they just hold on to those core values because it's a part of their mental model, right? It's a part of our makeup. And your mental model is your experience. It's what founded the company. It's what brought you to your organizations, right? And you're steeped in that. You want to bring it all back, but guess what? The framework has changed. But your pride is protecting that old, outdated mental model. And employees are shattering it, and you're pissy about it. All they're saying is do something different. Yeah, we can still have fun. We just might not be able to have as much fun in the way that you want us to have fun. So I'm rethinking that. In what ways are you either living up to these, or have they been shattered and new values have emerged? Let's have that conversation. Because there's what you say on paper, and then there's what you're actually living. I know some of y'all gonna write that down in the car. You don't want to write down now because that's too big, it's too deep. I get it, right? But your employees are your first customer. What's that? I forget who said the quote, but when you treat your employees good, they'll take care of your customer. Sometimes we have that round backwards. Every strategic goal should have a goal on their first customer and their employees. I can't say it. HR needs to be the right hand of every CEO. If you got money on your left, and we love our CFOs, then your people person needs to be on your right hand. Like they need to be the other hand. You need to know what they're thinking, get a pulse. Where are we? What are some things we need to put in place? All of those things we need to put in play. And then if you really want to go deep on teams and you want to understand what's happening, the other you have to understand is people's communication needs. It's a great book by Erin Meyer. I met her a couple of years ago, called The Culture Map. And so what Dr. Meyer did, a lot of people have done some research on context communication, low context and high context. So let me see if I can get back. Oops, wrong, keep doing that. So with low context, people or groups that have not been together for very long. Think about countries that have been together for a few hundred years, US, Canada, Germany, versus those that have been together for a few thousand years, Italy and those, right? So think about that. And the higher context, meaning those who've been together for a longer period of time, they have a lot of shared meaning. Office environment, shared meaning. We know how to do things. High context, right? A lot of shared meaning. Low context, we haven't been together that long, or we're not physically together, so we have a lot of low connection. We don't have a lot of shared meaning, so we have to be a lot more explicit in our communication. And we might be a lot more individualistic in our approach to doing the work. High context, I can just kind of look at Barbara and know that Barbara's going to be the one. I follow what Barbara is doing so I can make sure that I don't worry about that because we have a lot of shared meaning. That's lost when you have remote teams. Question is, how do you bring these two things together? Some things will need to change in how we measure, manage, promote, communicate within the context of that team. Different work ethics, different views of change. You're going to have two different cultures, and your job is going to be to merge those cultures. That's an HR, that's the thing that we live on from an HR perspective. We can make that happen, but it's hard to get business leaders to understand it's not a one and done. It's not everything done all at once. We have to do some different things. So create your SWOT. What's the define what the desired culture is. It has changed, redefine it. There is no, it's not changed. It has changed. You have to redefine what that is. Determine what the behaviors are that are going to get you there. Link it to your purpose. Your purpose can stay the same. Not asking you to change that, but the path to the purpose, that has changed. Identify symbols and behaviors. How are we going to know that we got there? What are the signs? What are the behaviors that we're actually tracking toward meeting our purpose through these different paths of getting there? It's no longer just one path. And then ensure that you have support systems in place. Processes, systems, tools. Some things, most things now have to be all digital. right? Making it easier for employees to engage. There's another great book that I will share with you. It's called The 10 Demandments, Demandments, blah, 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 right? Demandments. And her name is Moody. And what she did was she was writing about the demands that people have who are on the internet. They're doing all of these searches and stuff on the internet. She found that there are demands that people have just because we want things yesterday and right now. And so that kind of falls along the lines of some of this stuff. It's another really, really good read. And then working through the emotional cycle of change, specifically getting through inquiry, experimentations, exploration, and discovery. When people get hung up, and I'm just going to be honest with you, this is kind of my road back for business. This is where I make my money. It's between chaos and norming, right? Or storming and norming, listening, listening, listening. I come in because people have problems, and they want me to help solve their problems. And all I want you to do is listen. If you listen, they'll tell you exactly what they want, and you can find the intersection between what it is they want and what you are willing to do. What do you need to be doing differently, unique, or better to attract the talent you need to move your organizations forward? Find the right champions. Find easy, low-hanging fruit people who get it, who can support you, who are not in senior leadership. And you will find them in the organizations. Retaining the knowledge. Knowledge management is getting another boost. Get buy-in by communicating effectively. You don't have to communicate everything, but communicate effectively. Hold leaders and staff accountable, but leaders have to hold themselves first, right? You are the banner child for change, a poster child for change. And then don't be afraid to make adjustments. One of the things I used to tell my team all the time when I worked in corporate was, I reserve the right to change my mind. If I get a new piece of information and information's coming at us like lightning, I reserve the right to change my mind, and that is it. I do have a download. If you want it, you can text MWCC Leader 2, and you'll get this download as well. So I'm going to turn back over to Jane, but thank you all so much for having me here. We'll see if we have any time for questions.
We sure do. We've got 5-10 minutes for questions, so thank you, Pam. You've certainly given us all a lot to think about in the world we're living in today. We've got a roving microphone. Anybody have a question? I'm going to start with one. Talk a little bit more about, as a leader and a manager, the concept of it doesn't have to be equal to be fair.
Yes, yeah. So when we think about like rules and laws, employees will say, and I know that you all have heard this, well, you did this for so-and-so, you should do this for me, right? And, but there are some circumstances about so-and-so that you don't know about. And I can't violate confidentiality, privacy, and those kinds of things, or it's just none of your business to share that information with you, right? But how can I create an environment that lets people know that what I'm doing is fair, even though it's not physically equal? It's how I communicate, right? I may give this person or do something more different, seems more for this person, but point back to the things that you're doing for them. Like, think about the culture of the business, the benefits, the compensation. Like, you have access to a lot more information, we just don't leverage it. So yes, it does appear that I'm giving this person more or something different, but really it's just different. You're looking at, I need you to see this is all in the fruit family, and communicate without sharing too much information.
Thank you. Any audience questions? One of the closing comments you were making was about listening.
Yeah.
So what's the takeaway you would like to leave all of us today as we go out today and strive to be a better listener the rest of the day? What's the advice?
So I think the first thing is, I've got 2 books I'm going to give away, and let's put it out to the audience since we're live streaming, and y'all not going to make me look bad today, is I'm going to give away a book to people who've learned you listened today, you learned one nugget. There's this book, and then there's the other one on coaching, the Masterful Coach Playbook, because I know you all are in a place of coaching. So we'll give these books away to individuals that would like to share what they picked up for today. What did you listen? What did you hear? Yes. All
right, Mike.
I can't change unless I'm challenged.
Woo, I love that. Yes. And that wasn't even on the slide. Which book would you like? You were really listening. This one? My right, your right. You just come get the book. I think he said his right. This one?
You want the green book or the other book, Mike?
All
Yeah.
right. Okay.
All right. And Russ?
All right, Russ.
I like where you reinforced the importance of HR and human capital development with the CEO. That needs to be an equal position with the CFO.
Yep.
Now, if I work with a board and you don't have somebody on the board of directors that's your responsibility, I'm really not interested in working with your board because you don't get it yet.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Russ. I know you don't really need this book, but thank you for playing. Who would you like to will this to?
How about the Sue?
Sue.
All right, Sue.
Sue, you get the book. Thank you. Sue, I'm going to put you on the spot. Did you pick up anything today?
It's the changing we need to adapt to.
Yeah.
And it's the changing we need to adapt to. I keep thinking, you wrote a book a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the pandemic almost forced people to do that.
Yes.
And it's not because of the pandemic. It's the pandemic just a trigger.
It's a
for
trigger.
this habit.
Yeah, and the things have been sitting for so long, and y'all know people have been asking to work remotely for a long time, haven't they? And then what happened? Y'all let everybody work remotely, and they thought they're liars. They're liars. Yes, we can work. They made this happen, and now we're saying, no, but you got to come back. You can do it, but you got to give them a compelling reason why. Like, if you want more collaboration, then how are you going to make it easier for them to do that? If you want better communication, or you feel like you got the work was more, they were more productive, then give them the information, give them the tools to help that happen. Give them the facts and the data to help prove your point about how much better we are when we come back together. And yes, we're going to have conflict. You're going to have conflict, right? You do know that. So we've got to work through what those conflict challenges are going to be. Promise them. Put your conflict strategy in place now so that people can begin to work through those things. So thank you both. Thank you all. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that the people that have opted out of the work market will come back with a hybrid system?
Yes, I think they'll come back faster with a hybrid system. And I do think that there will be people who get tired of working remotely. I think some people have to because they've moved. Y'all know the research. People moved cross country to be with loved ones, to care for loved ones. Well, just because we said you can come back doesn't mean that my situation has changed. I've uplifted and uprooted my entire family, or my kids are doing so much better when they're at home with me. I can't really shift that very easily. So they need a little bit of empathetic leadership to help them make that adjustment. I think there are a lot more people who want to come back. They just simply cannot because their life situations changed during the pandemic, and it's worked to the family advantage. So family first, we say that a lot, but now we're putting it true to the test here. Family first, then you got to follow me where my family is. And my family isn't going back to work. My family isn't gone back to school, or it's safer for them to be home with me, or we don't believe in vaccines and I feel like my children are going to be ostracized or whatever, so I'm going to keep them home with me. All of those things are at play. And once we can figure that out, it'll be a lot easier for people to make that decision. But not a lot of them want to be home just because they want to be home. I think that's a false way of seeing this. It's just their lives change. But I think it will come back.
What about frontline workers in the service industry?
Yeah, they're just shifting. They're changing. And y'all see how much money we're paying those frontline workers. I mean, I remember when I was a frontline worker, I wasn't getting $20 an hour. McDonald's, right? That's just not a thing. Now, the question is, what will happen to the economy? We talked about this last night. Once things sort of settle, I don't know, right? It remains to be seen, but I know we got to keep up with that town. The other thing is that people are starting their own businesses. And I can tell you it's not going to be easy. So you're going to have a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I want to get out of this fast. Let me get a job. It's also creating an opportunity for skip-level promotions. One client I was sharing last night had 7 offers, went from a manager to a chief. All right. Is it sustainable? Oh, no, but we'll see. It's going to be tough.
Good. Well, Pam, thank you so much
You're
for
very
coming to
welcome.
Holland, Michigan. Thank you
you
for
all.
being
I
our guest
appreciate it.
today. So that's the end of our 2021 Wake Up West Coast series. We're going to see you back next month. It's our annual economic forecast breakfast. So the date is January 11th. We're bringing back Dr. Paul Isley. That will be, fingers crossed, both in person and certainly live streaming. So have a wonderful holiday, and we will see you in 2022. Thanks for being with us today.